All right, so let's talk about making money. Let's talk about closing deals, okay? And so I'm going to go off of a couple of assumptions here, and I'm not going to. Let's just go off the assumptions. First of all, the assumption number one is that you've got something to offer to somebody. So you help them. You can help people get leads or customers, or you can help people improve their life, or you can help people improve their health or their finances or their relationships, or you can help people get out of trouble, or you can help business owners communicate more effectively or build better presentations. I'm just naming just a few. You help people build and grow teams. Those are all just different examples of consulting. It can be anything. Consulting, as you know, is nothing more than just helping people, and so helping people, but getting paid to do it, right? Because most people in the world are what I call non-profit consultants. They give advice, but they don't get paid for it, so thus they don't make a profit. And then when a non-profit consultant who doesn't get paid for their advice gives advice, what do typically people do with that advice? Nothing, okay? And so charging money for your knowledge, your time, your experience, your expertise, or your story not only helps you, but it helps the person who you're charging, because typically they'll take that and they'll implement it. And I've seen in my business that, like when I started out, my very first consulting day that I ever did was $2,500, which is too low, but I still did it, okay? By the way, that first coaching day, a week and a half later, that client went out with a presentation that I built and wrote for him and closed $189,000 from the stage. That's when I realized I'm like, $2,500 is not going up. Okay, all right, so the point is, you're helping people. Okay, so now, the second assumption I'm making when it comes to consulting or closing deals as a coach, consultant, or advisor, this is a very important assumption, and I want to break a myth that's in the marketplace right now with this assumption. The last thing you'll do, okay, before you get paid and deliver the deal, what's the last thing you're going to do typically with the prospect? Thank you. Say that out loud. She said talk about money. Yes, that's true, but you're actually going to talk to them. That's the last thing that you're going to do. And how are you going to do that? Super, super important. There's two ways, and only two ways that you're going to talk to them. Way number one is how? On the phone. Way number two is how? Face to face. Now, you'll notice a bunch of things I didn't mention. What about email? No. Why? Never, ever, 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 ever. When you're taking notes, write the number of evers that I just said. Ever, 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 ever. It's like 3 lines of evers, okay? Ever, ever, ever do a deal over email. ... Ever, okay? Ever! Never, ever. Okay, think about this for a second. You have Consultant Profit, and you've been training at my feet on how to close deals. What that means is you're better trained than anyone at negotiating right now deals, okay? So when you look at someone and you're talking to them, you should feel prepared for anything that might come up. And if you're not, you could say, hey, Michael, you know what? That's a good question. Let me get back with my team and I'll give you an answer tomorrow. So even the questions you're not prepared for, you can have an answer for, so you're good. Now, on the other side, is that business owner prepared to talk to you? Probably not. They've got a million things that they've been thinking about, okay? And they really want what you have to offer. So who's in an advantage in this conversation? You are. But for some reason, you want to negotiate over email, and the reason why is what? Let's just be honest. Because you're scared. Okay? But you shouldn't be, but you are, and you're going to lose tens of thousands of dollars giving in to a fear that doesn't exist. You're well prepared. Okay? So, get rid of the fear and talk to them face to face or one-on-one. If you don't know the answer, you're going to be fine. Don't worry, but you're better prepared than they are. Close a deal. Now think about this. When you do a deal over email, you send them the deal. What do you miss as the consultant? That's exactly right. You miss their first reaction, okay? And so the first reaction could be like, whoa, what did that mean? They think it was going to be lower. That means you have to change the way you communicate in the future about what your prices are early on, okay? Or they might be like, what does that mean? You're good. You're about to get paid, okay? But you don't get that. What you get is an answer from them a day later after they thought about it a long time, after they negotiated in their head with you, after they talked to their team members and they talked to a bunch of other people on how to respond. But what you wanted was that first response. That's really all that you were looking for. Okay, and I've had both of those responses before. The first response tells me it's not someone I'm going to work with, and I don't even want to. The second response is, now there's probably some things I could do to work this deal even better. Okay, so this conversation right now, I'm going to assume this is a one-on-one conversation, and so are you. Don't do it any other way, not via text, not anything. Now, once the deal conversation is made, it is okay, perfectly okay, to start to discuss some of the finer details of the deal via email or in a Google document or via text. So a lot of times what I'll do, I'm not a lawyer, don't play one on TV, by the way, this is not legal advice. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll talk to a client and then I'll summarize what we talked about in the deal and I'll put it into a Google Doc that we can both have access to and we can track changes on so you can see if somebody messed with it, right? I'll put it into a Google Doc and then I'll send it to him and summarize. And then what both the client and I might do is make little notes or comments about some things that we may not have talked about, like follow-on sales or continuing discussion or some little things, little subtle nuances that you want to clarify. You can do all that. I don't have any problem with that at all, but I'm talking about the deal. Okay, now, when it comes to the one-on-one part of the deal or making deals one-on-one, there's actually two roads to get you to that conversation. There's a one-on-one road and then there's what else? One-to-many, right? So you have this road here where people can come to you one-on-one, and then you have this road over here where people can come to you one-to-many. Okay, and it's important to know the difference between these two, and the reason why I say that is people will go, hey, I just want to post an ad on Facebook and then have someone come to my webcast and then pay me $10,000 for consulting. And I'm like, I want a unicorn that shoots Skittles out of its rear end and gives me pots of gold. But that doesn't exist either, okay? So think about this. Do people pay? Would you go through, seriously, would you be on Facebook one day like, I wonder what's happening to my friends, and next thing you know, you click an ad and you paid someone $10,000 for consulting? No. Now you did this, by the way, you did do it with a $2,000 product. That's why you're here. But $10,000, once you cross, in my opinion, cross about the $5,000 line, that turns into a unicorn. Okay, and it turns into the need for a one-on-one conversation. That's why I started with that assumption. Okay, so you can sell books, you can sell products, you can sell membership sites, all that stuff you can sell passively. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's totally doable. Once you pass about 5, I've seen some people push the number on that, but certainly $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, you're going to talk to the person one-on-one. And the fact is, you're going to get a better client that way anyway. So even if you could get them passively, you'd still probably want to talk to them. But let's talk about this real quick. One-on-one. There's a couple different ways to get leads. Now we're going to get to the nuts and bolts, because my goal for you, and if you're watching online, my goal for you is the same thing, which is this. In the next week, I want you to have closed a significant deal. And what that number for you is totally up to you. It could be $5,000, $10,000, 15 or 20, 25, 50, 75. We've had people do up to $109,000 deals. Okay, so all those are in the realm of possibilities. The number doesn't even matter. The number is something floating in your head that you feel is significant, but it's far less significant than you think it is, okay? The numbers can move fairly. Here's the thing. If you're working with a business owner that has no money, no leads, and no customers, is the number significant? Very. If you're working with a customer, like some of the folks that I've worked with who have 5, 10, 20, $40 million businesses, if you have a $40 million business, is that number that significant? It's just a number. Let's just talk about it. I mean, we had one of our clients, let's think about this for a second. One of our clients bought a $2,000 course from us, came to a $4,000 training. At the $4,000 training, signed up for a $29,000 coaching day. Okay, well, included our mastermind and stuff, but it was a coaching day with Mike and I. And then at the coaching day, decided that he wanted to spend 2 days in our studio having us write and create an infomercial for him over 2 days, which was $70,000. So over the course of a certain period of time, homeboy drops like $103,000, $104,000. Now check this out. On the second day of the day that we were here creating that infomercial for him, the first day at lunch, we were eating lunch, we were sitting up at the counter out there, and he comes up to me and he goes, man, I got to tell you, even if nothing ever comes from this infomercial, it was worth coming here just to have observed the process over the last 3 hours. And by the way, the process was really great. It was Mike and I and a couple other people that were working on a Google Doc, creating an offer out of thin air, and it was actually a really cool process. But having spent some $100,000, homeboy's like, it was worth it just to be here for the last 3 hours. $100-some thousand, it was worth it just to be here for the last 3 hours. Broke people don't say that. affluent people who understand the value of an idea. So like if he had come in and gotten one idea and got another franchise, that over the course of the next 5 years was going to be $200,000 to him, was it worth paying $100,000 for one franchise? Yeah. It's probably going to get about 100 franchises, which is about another, what, $20, $40 million. So was it worth it? Yeah, it was like chump change. Okay, the difference between the broke business owner and that affluent one had nothing to do with personality. It had simply to do with the kind of business that they had and the levers that you could push. And the assumption that you make as a new consultant sometimes, and I made this assumption too, is this. We start low. We start the low folks in the totem pole because we figure it'll be easier to close these folks because they've got a smaller business that's kind of more like mine than it will be to close these really big businesses. When the opposite is true. Okay, the hardest deals to close are the broke people because they can't pay you. Okay, so they're the ones who are like, I'll give you like 30% on the product that we create 3 months from now, and you're like, wait, so I'm not going to get paid like ever, maybe, right? The fastest ones to close are the big ones because they want a solution to the problem. They don't care how long it takes. Just get it, fix it, just do it, just fix it. I'll pay you. We're good. Okay, so start targeting folks who have real businesses, real customers, and real money. There's a lot of them, by the way, and they need your help. Okay, so one-on-one. Let's start with the one-on-one road. What are some, no particular order by the way, but what are some ways that you can communicate to people or get people to communicate to you so that you can start closing the deal one-on-one? And when I say this, I mean now. Like now, and I go back to this, 5 days. So you have 5 business days to close a significant deal. That's my challenge. You can't say no. All right, so do it. The only thing you have to do is tell me when you did it. Tell me your success story, okay? You don't even have to send like a percentage. I mean, we could be like, send us 10% of the deal that we just encourage you to make, but you don't even have to do that. You can keep it all. You can if you really want to. P.O. Box 12, okay. So, one-on-one. So thank you. She said, I'm so gracious. Thank you. It was very nice of me to do that. I'm just kidding. What was I talking about before I got so rudely interrupted by myself? So, where? So give me some ways. Give me some ways. That would be one to many. She said LinkedIn. Give me some ways to talk to, okay, so think about this for a second. Do you have deals on your phone? Do you have people on your phone you could do deals with? Okay, you're starting to think it's feeling weird right now because like they're my friends and stuff, and I'm going to give you the line to use in a second. The point is, you've got them. Okay, so it's people you know. Start there. Sit down with your phone, like Mike teaches, okay, and like was taught in Consult and Profit. Scroll through your phone. There's hundreds and hundreds of people. Make a list of 50 to 100 people that you might be able to do deals with. Slim it down to 20. Start with 5. 1 a day. Okay? Start with people you know. Now, here's the issue. Because people are like, yeah, but they're like friends of mine. And that's kind of weird because I don't want to pitch friends of mine. It is weird if you say this. Hey, Michael, it's Ed. I was thinking about your business and I would really like to help you. And then he meets you at Starbucks and you pitch him on a deal. That's weird because they thought you were going to help him and now you're going to charge him. Okay, so you have to, it's all about, remember I said in the introduction earlier today, I said it comes down, business success comes down to only 2 things. It's just these 2 things. The first one was how you think about yourself and everyone else. And the second one was what? Remember? You remember what I said?
Mindset.
That's the first one. He said mindset, how you think. The second one was how you communicate. It's the words you use. The words are important. It's a reason why I've spent my entire business lifetime refining and perfecting the words that I use, okay? And it's the words you say that make a difference. And so here's what you're going to say to a person that you know. And let me ask you afterwards if it makes a difference. You'll say, hey, Michael, listen, I don't know if you know this or not, but I started a business recently where I help people write and publish books. And I was on your website the other day and I was looking at your business, which is amazing, by the way, but one of the biggest things you're missing, I think, is a book. So hey, why don't you and I get together this week and we can sit down, talk about maybe a book for you, and together we can come up with a deal that works for you and a deal that works for me, and we can both benefit from this. Now pause for a second. When Michael shows up at Starbucks, what does he know? I mean, I only said it like 3 different ways, right? I'm like, I don't know if you know this, but now I have a business that does this, okay? So why don't you and I get together and we can come up with a deal so that you can benefit and also I can benefit. Do you catch all that? So I told him 3 times in a very short sentence, 3 times I told him what? You're going to pay me. So now when you show up at Starbucks, is Michael surprised that I'm talking about money? No. Do you see the difference? It's all about what you said. It's just the way you communicate, right? There's no weirdness now because you've framed something properly. Framing is everything. Communication, it's the words you use, okay? So I just give you one, but there's 10 different ways to say that. There's 10 different ways to do it. Just make sure it's framed properly, okay? Because if you don't do it that way, you end up like a glorified Amway person, okay? Look, no offense if you love Amway, okay? And if you've made millions of dollars or whatever, you probably haven't, okay? Or if you're watching online, no offense to you if you love Amway. My experience with Amway is I'm on my way to dinner with a friend of mine, and next thing you know, I'm sitting in a conference room, and I'm like, how did I get here? I thought we were having dinner. You know, they're like, oh yeah, but I just want to tell you about my home-based business. You're like, you know? Like that's the Amway way. It's like, let's sneak them into the conference room and before they know it, then start pitching them. I'm like, that's just not cool. Tell me I work with Amway and I'd love to know if you're interested in finding out more about it. Maybe I am. Let's go to your conference, okay? So I don't even know why I just took that diversion, but you know what I'm saying? Like, don't do that. Just don't. Be normal and frame things properly. I have a business. Let me help you. All right, what else? Totally off topic. So I'll call this video on Facebook my Amway rant. All right. I didn't even have to name a company. I could have just said MLM, but I decided to name Amway. All right. So let's go to you've experienced that, by the way. I know you have. All right. So what other one-on-one? How else can you get leads? Not just people you know, or what's next? Okay, referrals. Yeah. So referrals. People who know people you know, right? Referrals. Why do referrals work so amazingly well, by the way? Yeah, trust, okay? Remember what I just talked about framing? What's so great about a referral frame? They do all that stuff ahead of time, right? The person referring already knows that you've met someone's litmus test. Whether or not it's true or not, it's completely, like I have a friend of mine who for like 5 years, I'd be like, yeah, I need a web guy. I need a social media person. And I always get referrals from this person because I thought their referrals were like amazing. And then I realized everyone he referred me to was horrible. But it took like 5 years to figure that out, okay? And your friends haven't gotten that far yet, so get referrals from your friends. Now, remember I told you, there's 2 things, the most important 2 things. Number 1 is the way you think, specifically about yourself. The second most important thing is what? How you communicate. In this case, who's doing the communication? The person referring. So who should control the words they say? You. Okay? So when someone refers me, so somebody said, in fact, this guy I was just telling you about, the guy who the $100,000 client, he said, hey, I've got 2 folks that I'd like to introduce you to who I think would be great clients. And I said, I would like to let you do that. Okay? And then what I told him is I said, hey, listen, it's just 2 things that are very important when the person, by the way, this is inside of Consultant Profit in the referral section. I do an interview with a guy named Bill Cates. It's worth watching that. I think it's sitting actually right now in the bonus area. So look for Ed interview with Bill Cates inside of Consultant Profit. We go for an hour on this. I'll do it very quickly, which is this. When I do referrals, I say there's 2 things. If you could just pass this on, Michael, it'd be really great. First is I'm super busy, but since they're a referral from you, I'll make them a priority, but I'm not going to be able to schedule them until next week. So just make sure they know we're going to schedule right away, but they're going to have to wait a little bit to talk. Okay, by the way, I'm like available tomorrow. So why don't I just schedule them tomorrow? You don't wait in a long line to meet the guru at the bottom of the mountain, and I'm setting up the framing for the future. I'm planning future battles, okay? So it's important for them to wait a week to think about me long enough to know that I'm not immediately available. I'm busy, okay? Most of the time I am. The second thing is I tell them, I say, hey, listen, Michael, when you talk to your friend, just make sure you don't have to tell them the deal we did, but please help them understand that I'm very expensive and that they might not be able to afford me. Okay, now what do most consultants do? They tell people how affordable they are and how cheap they are, but it's framing. Remember, you're not fighting this battle, you're doing the one later on down the road and you're setting the stage for something. So if someone, like I gave a talk one day, we have coaching programs which you're aware of, that range from, say, $20,000 all the way up to $70,000. But our average is in the $20,000 to $30,000 range. So when I was standing up on stage one day speaking about our coaching program, I had a husband and wife who got together and they whispered and said, write down what you think the price is, and you write down. And they each took a paper and folded it over and wrote the price of our program down. And one said $45,000, the other was like $35,000, and we came in at like in the mid-20s. Now, is $20-some thousand a lot of money? It's a lot of money. But when you think it's 45, what just happened? You're like, that's a great deal. By the way, $20,000 isn't even that much. Think about this for a second. Let's say you hired an employee to do like social media or something. You're going to pay them at least $2,000 a month. How much is that a year? $24,000, and they may suck, right? So what if you got $24,000 worth of advice that got you another $240,000? Would it be worth, instead of getting the social media person, would it be worth maybe paying somebody for good ideas? Yeah, when you look at it like that way, it's not that much. By the way, what I just did is called oranges and apples. Right? I compared one thing against another that were completely unrelated, but it had to do with money. It's another frame. It's another way of communicating. I did it for demonstration reasons, but I also did it for thinking reasons. Just think through that. Okay, so referrals work, but I always tell them two things: busy, expensive. Okay, look through. I'm going to post this video someplace, or we'll have it available somewhere. If you need to go back and look at the transcript on how I said that, but the words are really important. Okay, some other one-on-one ways. You might go to an event. People come up to you. You might pass business cards back and forth, okay, all that stuff are on the one-on-one side. Okay, most of the clients that come initially to newer consultants typically come from the one-on-one road. As you grow and mature in your business, they start shifting over to this side. So let's talk a little bit about the one-to-many side, and then we'll wrap up this discussion. Where are some ways that people can come to you in a one-to-many format? So yes, okay, so like webinar is one. Now, if you're closing, let's say webinar, webcast, telesummit, teleseminar, okay, all of those streaming online. If you're doing this and selling $10,000 or $20,000 thing, what's your call to action going to be at the end of a webinar? By the way, if you're not totally 100% sure what I mean by call to action, go to module 4 inside of Consult and Profit, which is the product that you all have access to. There is a 2-part training called Speak to Sell, where I talk about speaking and I talk about call to action and what that means. What is your call to action? If you're doing a webinar, webcast, telesummit, and your program is $10,000 or $20,000 or $15,000, what's your call to action? Application. Yeah, an application or you $500 deposit I've done in the past to do a 30-minute call to see if you're right fit for the program, something like that. Okay. If it's a $2,000, $4,000 product, just sell it. $500 product, just sell it, right? And have your team follow up afterwards if you want to. One to many. Some other ways. So speaking, yeah, this is one that we mentioned in a previous training, but for me personally, so speaking is my core skill. So of all the things I do, I like webcasts, I like video, I like teaching, I like I like writing. But if I just could do one thing, I would just do speaking. I would just do speaking at events, because Good to Great is an incredible book, by the way. There's some interesting questions inside of Good to Great, and one of the questions is, what's the one thing you do that every time you do this, you're making money? And for me, it's speaking. I get clients that way. I sell products that way. I'm good at it. I like it. Okay, so it's speaking. It might not be for you, but what I'll tell you, so we have a program called Speak and Profit. You already know this. My purpose here is not to sell that product. What I will tell you is there's nothing like it. It's 3 days of Mike and I rolling up our sleeves and showing you everything about how to make a bunch of money as a speaker. Okay, paid. There's 4 ways to get paid as a speaker. You get paid checks, you sell products, you sell coaching or consulting, or you sell books. Okay, so those are the 4 ways. We teach you and break you down. We give you the format, formula. I give you all the scripting because that's what I do. Okay, we teach you how to build an incredible talk, all that stuff. The point I'm making now, though, isn't any of that stuff. The point is this. Some of the best speakers I've seen who did the best financially from the stage, guess who they were? Totally inexperienced, not comfortable at all, but they were real. You know what I'm saying? They went up there and the audience knew, I'm watching Christina right now. I'm not watching when people are all like, there's 7 different ways to make money in internet marketing. Way number 1. And you're like, do you really talk like that? You know what I'm saying? Like if I went out to dinner with you, would you be like, Ed, are you going to have the steak or the chicken tonight? Nobody actually talks like that normally. You know what I'm saying? But when people get on stage, they're all like, they do these weird body motion things and the way that they walk and stuff like that. And you're like, and the audience is like, that's not normal at all. and everybody knows that, and then people don't buy stuff from them because they're just doesn't feel right. And so a lot of times, the speakers who are just speaking from the heart, telling their story, who have a little bit of the structure that I teach inside a Consultant Prophet, like have some of the structure. But when you get that, you become really powerful as a speaker. Okay, so get over your fear and get up on stage. You would be amazed at how quickly you can go speak right now in local groups. Go to Meetup. There's local marketing. You could walk from here to Maine on top of local marketing groups who all need and want speakers. And look, I know you're like, yeah, but I don't really. Yes, you do. You need to be, you're an authority. Okay, you're an 8. Get off your butt and go speak. Now, if you really want to speak and you really want to get in, there is one tool you can use to get in and speak almost anywhere. Do you know what that tool is? A book. Okay, we talked about a book, but listen, when you say, hey, I'm Ed Rush, #1 best-selling author of the book, How to Turn Clicks into Clients. I'm on a book tour. As a part of the book tour, I'm on a speaking tour, and I was wondering if you wanted me to come in and speak. 95% of the time I say that, people book me to speak. Why? Every speaker, everyone who books speakers, their biggest concern is, will this person come in and embarrass me because they stink? And when you say #1 best-selling author, what they do is they go, oh, okay, they've already been through Amazon's litmus test, so they must be real. Now, does Amazon really have a litmus test? Not really, okay? At all, okay? I've read some of those books, trust me. Not just ours. I'm talking about you go to Amazon and you're like, dang, I wanted to learn commercial real estate, so I bought a commercial real estate. I couldn't even read the first page. I couldn't even read it. I was so dismayed and confused, I didn't even have the energy to write a bad review. That's how horrible this book was. But the point is, even if your book's horrible, which is probably not going to be, it is a great door open to speaking. By the way, don't wait to write your book before you go get speaking events. Right? Don't be like, Ed, tell me that. You don't need a book, it just helps. Okay, some other one-to-manys. Give me some other ones. LinkedIn, so all the social, okay? Yeah. All the social. Now, what social media should you use? For sure. I have no idea. None. Here's why. Your business is different. Okay, so if you market to teens, what's one you probably want to be on? Snapchat, Instagram. If you market to stay-at-home moms that like homeschool, Pinterest, Instagram, a little bit of Facebook. Okay, if you are running for governor of California, what's probably the one you want to be on? Twitter. Okay, if you're working with business owners, if you work with high net worth CEOs and you help them create a better life, where do you need to be? LinkedIn. Okay, so it's always, you ask your market, who are they, where are they, what do they want? When you ask where are they, then go there, right? One thing I'll tell you is not all of them. Like when I started really building out my social media presence, I started with 3 things, but really 2. I started with LinkedIn, and I really started engaging people with LinkedIn, and I spent most of my energy there. The second place I went to was Facebook, but Facebook was more for credibility than closing deals. Okay, so if you look at my Facebook page, I have 140,000-ish something at the time of this recording and training, and that number is more not for business purposes; it's more for credibility purposes, and my content too. Okay, because what would happen was, I'm a good speaker, good author, people knew me, my clients loved me, but then people would come to my Facebook page because I literally did nothing there. And they would be, well, if he's so great, why does he only have 1,500 followers? So now it's 140,000 and they're like, wow, he must be so great. Remember what I told you? It's not fake it till you make it, it's perceived. You're matching who you are, okay? And I do a very nice, steady stream of well-branded content. Okay, if you look at the content, for example, on my Facebook page, all of the pictures, and just about all of the posts are branded. So if you saw one out of the blue, you would be like, that's Ed Rush's brand. Colors, logo, everything, it's branded. Okay, that way when somebody who's a mover and shaker in an industry that I want to interview types my name in and looks at me, they go, legit, 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 I'll work with them. Okay, that's why. But I'm not saying that's your strategy. I'm telling you that was my strategy because of what I wanted to accomplish. Yours will be different because every business is different. Right? You've heard people go, Mike says this too, and I'm not disagreeing with it. You've heard people go, your business isn't different? That's true, by the way. So your business isn't different is true, and your business is different is true. They're both true. Your business isn't different when it comes to the big levers and strategies. Market message media, stuff like that, copywriting. Your business is different when it comes to the specific implementation of the strategies in your niche and market. This is very important for you to distinguish between the two. Now, how do you get from the big principles down to the small principles as a business owner? I'm going to give you a thought about this. And I haven't found a business owner yet who is very capable of doing it themselves. Why is it hard for you to go from the big principles and apply them small in your market and really know where your market is and how they're going to respond? Does anybody want to guess? Because you're way too close. And you're so biased, you have no idea that you're biased. So am I, okay? We're all really biased about ourselves and our market, and you're way too close. Okay, so what you need to do is either back way out, which is nearly impossible, or hire someone who can. Okay, that's the reason why as a consultant, it's important for you to have your own. All right, social, there's other things like you can do video, podcasts, those sort of things. Okay, all of these though don't work at all. So there's two parts to this. One, there's credibility, but the second part is they should create lead generation for you. So for example, when I do videos, I should say every once in a while, one of the things I do with my private coaching and consulting clients is you and I sit down and something, and then someone should, this happened yesterday. So there's a guy I've been following online for years, okay? He's very influential in the Christian community, brilliant guy. I've listened to him teach a lot. I really like the way that his mind works. Yesterday, he sent an email to me. I don't even know how I got on his email list, but it was him and his wife sitting down talking about their vision for the future and what they're doing in both business and then in their writing and all that sort of thing. And halfway through, I had this feeling like, you know when you just had this like, it was like a very divine sort of God moment. It was like, you should watch this video. And I'm like, I never watch these videos. I never watch videos people email me. That doesn't mean, by the way, people don't watch videos that are emailed. It just means I don't, okay? Don't make a broad statement out of what I just said. It's very important to do that. And by the way, it would be dumb for me to say, I don't watch videos and email, so I won't use video and email. Dumb, okay? Because I'm not my market. This is a total side point, but I'm telling you, people do that all the time. Now, watch this guy's video, and in 3 minutes in, he's like, you know, and one of the things we've really enjoyed over the last year is our advisory program where we work one-on-one with really high-level strategic business owners and folks in government. And I'm like, psst, that's like me, right? Both of those things. That's the direction that I'm going. And within 5 minutes, I'd emailed him. I'm like, hey, I've been following you for years. I totally align with you. My name's Ed Rush. I'm a 4-time #1 best-selling author, 4 or 5. It's like the whole thing, you know, and I'm like, send me the information on your advisory thing. Okay, did they sell their advisory thing? No, they just mentioned it. They just seeded it. And for a guy like me, like they didn't know this, but like when I'm seeding, when I'm communicating, I've got 140,000 people on Facebook and 137,000 of them are broke. And of the 3,000 that are left, 300 are probably multimillionaires that I would like to really communicate with. So when I'm talking, there's 300 that I'm thinking about, and maybe one out of those would be like, hey, Ed, could you send me more information about your coaching? And I'm like, perfect. You know what I mean? That's just called seeding, and you're doing that throughout. All right. Real quick, questions on this? I'm going to close this up and then we're going to go into some Q&A, but questions specifically on this? You good? Okay, very simply, what's your job now? You're going to close one deal, how long? 5 days. Does that scare the crap out of you a little bit? It shouldn't, but maybe it does. Just do it, okay? Listen, I did this at an event once, and I was speaking before lunch, I said, I'm going to give a prize to whoever shows up with a closed deal after lunch. And I had 3 people come up having closed, the lowest deal was $2,500. They were all written on paper and napkin and stuff, but they had credit cards and signatures and stuff. It was very official, okay? The point is, it took them like 2 hours. And I'm telling you, I knew all 3 of them. They weren't like rock stars. You know, it wasn't like this really famous person that came up to me. They were regular people. You know, one of the ladies was a leader. You know the group of women that wear like hats, purple hats? What's that group called? Red Hats. Red Hats. She was like a leader in the Red Hat Club. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not talking about like a multimedia personality here. She wasn't on, you know, like TMZ, okay? She was a Red Hat Club person. But she closed a $2,500 deal. So I'm telling you, if the Red Hat person can close a $2,500 deal, you should probably go close a $5 or a $10 or $20,000 deal. You up for that? If you are, say hoorah. All right, that's it for this one. Thank you.